Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another CNC Router Mixer. We have these every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. inside the hashtag CNC Router Tips group. Um, I put a link inside of the comments if you'd like to join us tonight and take part in this. And I'm going to put it down in the comments one more time, just in case. Uh, it's uh, it's really great when members in the community can take the time and join us and talk about their CNC projects, their CNC router tables, any issues that they're having, any solutions they've found. It's really quite nice. We generally tend to have turnout over 5, 6, 10 people sometimes um, show up at this, and I'd really like to see those numbers go up because we've got over 20,000 members. In fact, we're closer to 22,000 members in the group. And some of you may not even know that we do these. And, if you're stuck and you've had an issue with your CNC router, um, we're here. We're giving free help. Just join us. Or if you're shy, camera shy or whatever, just put a comment inside of the uh, comment section with this video, and we'll see the questions, and we'll do our best to answer it. Really been quite an interesting time lately. I'm just recovering over the last week or so from a really bad cold I got, and got my voice back now, and things are looking up. So I thank you for all the folks who reached out to me and to check and see how I was doing. I'm feeling much better now. So um, let me see. What else have we here to go in? I was trying to save the one thing that I wanted to talk about for when we have the other members join. They tend to join, a few minutes later anyway. Um, but it is what it is. We have been looking at some components, and there's some really cool posts inside of the CNC Router Tips group lately of some projects that folks are working on, and I'm hoping that Ned can join us from Australia this time, because Ned was showing some pictures in the group of a new CNC router that he's building, and I got one main question I want to ask him about it, because I'm wondering why he has such a long axis for the x-axis, which is left to right on the table if you're standing at the end, um, and he has a very small ball screw shown in there connected with a closed loop stepper, and then he has um, a different ball screw sitting up on the top, and I'm curious um, what he's got planned there, because it almost looks as if he has two ball screws supporting one axis there and one tubing, and I'm wondering if maybe he's got planned to have two separate um, uh, spindles on this thing, or just what's going on in his mind. It's a really interesting look to the design, and I'm just curious what he's got planned. So this should be interesting. I hope he does get a chance to come and join us and talk about that today. So should be interesting. Should be very interesting. And oh, okay. I see what I'm doing wrong here. I was clicking a link trying to expand the Zoom window so that I could see it better, and I thought I was um, accidentally clicking a Facebook link, but I am not. So it's pretty good. Um, if I can, I'm going to navigate over to a photograph inside the group to share with you. Um, just to get a look at what I was talking about as far as the router build that Ned was working on, and really kind of neat. Um, so I just heard from Tally. He's still out working at his business. This is building season, so it's a lot of overtime pops up all the time. So maybe if he gets a chance to break free later, he'll come in and join us tonight. That would be really cool. But if not, we wish you the best of of luck tonight as you work, and everything is cool. I'm going to share that picture that I was talking about. This is one of our regulars, Ned, and Ned is down in Sydney, Australia, and this is the little project he was working on. You could tell Ned's a prolific builder of things. You can see in the back he's got a milling machine and a few other things going on. But these were the two ball screws that I was talking about that he's got on his machine, and I'm just curious what he's going to be doing with this. Hey, Kurt, welcome. Good to see you.
I'm here.
Yeah. Excellent. Um, anyway, I'm just curious looking at this design, what Ned's got in mind, because he's doesn't make
He's
sense
got
to
a
me.
big cross axis. He's going to use it so his Z can go all the way across and do a rotary on the outside. Looks like,
Hmm.
and he's got some heavy duty linear rails on it, so it's probably going to be a pretty stout machine.
Yeah, it's looking like that. He's got some acrylic side plates though, which are probably not the first choice, but he may be using those to test fit. Because acrylic is a lot
I've
cheaper than aluminum.
I've got some acrylic on mine. Man, it's strong. It's when you if you bolt it up good, it's stout.
Hmm.
I'm surprised.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, I know when we built our Joe's CNC hybrid machines, we were using combinations of wood and ultra high molecular weight plastic, or we're also using um, high density polyethylene in some cases and that sort of thing. And that was very strong. Um,
Right.
and I think trying to remember the name of the router that they sell at Woodcraft. Um, that is made mostly out of HDPE or
Right.
yeah.
I took a couple classes over there on that machine, and it's pretty stout actually.
Mhm. Yeah, they I think, if I'm not mistaken, that they have some angle brackets on the ends of it to add additional stiffness on the
I don't
uprights.
recall that, but
Yeah.
maybe they did.
Yep.
I know
But
some of them have a metal strip on them.
yep. But really, it's whatever you got to do to make it work for you, and there's no shame in innovating to save a few bucks. But this is looking kind of cool. So, uh,
So
I would.
he's
Uh,
got ball screw for and it looks like he's got four linear bearings with slides
hmm
for the narrower part, and then he's got it looks like it's going to extend out past the main bed to do a
Yep.
rotary on the side.
Yeah. Over on this end, he's going to extend out for the rotary, it
Right.
looks like, or for an automatic tool changer, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever he's trying to do. Um,
5 axis.
yeah. So I was curious why this lead screw that he's got in the plastic bag on the top is not the one that's on the front of the rail. But he may be driving it from a different position. That's what's cool about these designs, trying to see what somebody else is thinking and doing. Um, because I suspect Ned has a bunch of different linear guides laying around from projects, because he's got several just laying on the table. There's one here, along the side that is not bolted down. And there's one in the, you can just barely see it in the back. I don't know if you can see
Right.
my mouse pointer going across, but there's one sitting in the back along the back edge, which I
Yeah.
suspect, well, I don't know what he would use it for actually here, because he's already got the y-axis covered.
He's got that big, looks like a NEMA 34 motor out there too.
This one here in the middle,
No, up here on
or
the gantry, he's got that big 30, looks like a 34.
this one.
Yeah.
Hmm, looks like a 24 to me, but you never
Excuse
know.
me. Yeah, maybe a 24, maybe a 32 with
Yeah,
high torque.
yep, yep. But we don't know. He said this was his smaller size build that he was doing, so um, maybe we'll get lucky and he'll come in today and we'll get to see that. Um,
He's using 3x3 cross beams and looks like 2x4 or 1.5 by maybe
mhm.
1.5 by 3 long beams. Well, the end beams look like they're huge.
Yeah, these right here. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
And the middle beams look like 1x3s, 1.5 by 3.
Yeah, this might be like a 2.5 or 3
Yeah.
square here, and these are, normal size, what you would expect, But yeah, he's got a variety of different beams on here, and um, I like where he's chosen to use each of them. So, because the Y doesn't take a lot of have a lot of bending stress on them, so you really don't need the Ys to be huge, but the X definitely has the biggest load on it. It's got the spindle, the
Yeah.
carriage, the all of the wiring
Looks like a three
and
by
yeah.
yeah, looks like a 3x6.
Hmm.
So that's what I used, and it's working out pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of uh kind of a neat project he's got going there. I'm hoping we get to hear about that soon because it looks really interesting. Um, you're building a machine as well. We saw some you working on it quite a bit last week. Um, for those who are tuning in, we post these videos on YouTube after I get around to it actually. But the one from last week is up there while Kurt was working on his machine. Um, we got some quick views of that. Gonna take us out and give us a tour?
My animal just escaped.
The leopard is on the prowl.
He just come back in.
Oh, by the way, folks, we're having severe weather um, come through for the next couple of hours. So if we lose
Okay.
electricity or whatever, we may drop, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Let's see here.
Yeah. But while Kurt is figuring that out, um, one of the things that I'm hoping to talk about a little bit later is the control boxes in CNC and how things have changed over the years and how much better
Um,
um, the equipment can be.
I can't hear you because my Bluetooth just disappeared.
How about now? Uh, let's see. I will just send you a chat. We can hear you. So, um, if you can't hear us, that's cool. We can listen to you talk because we can hear you.
Okay, I've got to figure it out. There. My fuel amount is HDPE, and behind the linear slide, we have um, the product as a base.
You're a little bit muffled there, Kurt.
Okay.
Yep. You want to repeat that?
There. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Try it anyway.
Let me see what's going on here.
Yeah, now I can hear you fine.
Okay, good.
It's when you turn away from it, we can't.
How's that? Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Well, this is HDPE for the spindle mount, and behind here is acrylic plate. And this acrylic holds them up onto the linear slide bearings. And this is very strong. I was a little bit surprised how strong it was. So I did was working on the spindle, and that's my E chain mounting up. So the E chain is probably going to mount up like this. That way it can slide back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the wiring for the spindle. And then this is the corner for the E chain where the corners are. And there's my little motor. There we go.
Those are what, NEMA 23s or 24s?
Those are little 23s.
Mm-hmm.
This one here is a 2.8 amp little motor, but it's strong. I couldn't believe how strong it was. It's come a long way.
Yep.
And then the bed itself is a commercial made store bought bed. I got it for $250. It's got the big linear bearings on it, and I couldn't pass it up for $250. I mean, that much it's just the aluminum.
Mm-hmm. Oh, awesome.
And
It's coming right
there's the
along.
water pump for the water cooling. And I see Scott's here.
Hey, Scott.
Hey,
Like my
I
voice is
also
still coming and
obtained a
going.
rigid water pump for ceramic tile saws, and I got this for a couple of dollars. So either way, I go with the pump for the water cooling.
Is that a 2.2 kilowatt spindle?
1.5.
1.5, really? Okay.
Yeah.
You know roughly how much that weighs?
Huh. 25 pounds.
Woof.
They're heavy.
Yep, I was surprised how much bigger and heavier they are than conventional woodworking router.
Yeah. Well, I got my hands on it for a very low cost. I decided, what the heck? It's going to be a small CNC. It should be enough for what I want to do. The gantry is going to be stout enough. It's a 3x6. It's actually 60 by 300. It's 300 by 600 millimeters, which means 3 1/8 by 6 1/4.
Hmm.
Plenty strong.
Yeah, this size machine is much nicer in a small shop.
Yeah.
And let,
My taffy pieces, they're made out of Baltic birch, Russian Baltic birch, 9 ply. It's very strong, but I'm going to change that out to HDPE or acrylic later.
Mhm.
And it's really stout. It's a little bit surprised how strong that Baltic birch is.
Yeah, I've not used Baltic birch on any of my machines yet.
It's getting hard to come by.
We
I've
have
got my
a
small hoard left. It's getting hard to come by. And
a plywood supply place in a town not far from here, and you can get some really nice plywood there. Baltic birch, pre painted and uh, you know pre finished, that sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, but they've been in business for at least 80 years. Oh, very cool, Kirk. Good job. And, like seeing the progress you're making.
yeah, it's coming along.
Yeah, you could be cutting right now if you wanted to, other than the water pump.
Yeah, I'm real close. I could if I wanted to, but um, I'm also working on my teardrop out in the yard today.
Hmm.
Working on my teardrop outside. It's been nice, and I got a bunch of it done. And then tonight I got to go recut a couple ribs for the hatch. So I came home and I was going to work on finding the plans for the hatch cover. That's my project for the next day or two.
Yeah. Um, really nice project you're working on there. Um, switching gears for a second, Scott.
Yeah.
I sent you a link last week. You were talking about the long mill or the alt mill, I believe, uh, and somebody on Facebook just happened to be selling one, and I sent you the link inside of the Facebook Messenger for it because it looked like it was a pretty decent price for it, unassembled, new in the box kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a long mill, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was a long mill or the alt mill. I just remember it was one of the two that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, if
Wasn't a bad
I
price.
rem go ahead, I'm sorry.
The price was about, I think it was somewhere around 1,300 what they were asking.
I thought it was 1,000.
But somewhere, yeah, about 1,000.
Yeah. So anyway, the
Yes.
of the two, the long mill and the alt mill, I think the alt mill was the better choice.
I think so, honestly.
Yeah.
because you don't, well, for one, you don't have to build the table and everything, and
Yeah.
but
Well, you have to assemble a table though, don't you?
yeah, you got to assemble it. I'd rather, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yep. One other thing I was wanting to share from the Facebook group. I'm gonna find it before I share it actually. Because there have been a couple of good posts lately. Um, well, I would say this because I posted this picture, but you know, um, I was out looking around on the web because I was looking for a picture of a control box, a CNC router control box, and this guy had this picture, and I thought it was nice because he hasn't got everything in place yet, but there's enough here that for those who don't know what's inside a control box, we can identify the components for them and tell them what they are. And, somebody may need that kind of information, because a lot of times you see a listing on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or something for a used machine, and you go over to look at it to determine if you want to buy it. And if you have no clue what's inside the box, you don't know what you're looking at. So I just thought I would mention these things. Now, I'm going to go from left to right from the top here. Now, this first silver item with the holes in it is a power supply. I don't know what size power supply it is because I probably can't zoom in close enough to get a reading on it. Yeah, you never know. No, it's about as large as you can get, but it's probably 12 to 24 volts, somewhere in that range power supply, and it will probably drive um, something like let's say this was a Centroid Acorn build or whatever. It would provide the power to the motherboard or some other component, or it might provide the power to um, one of these other components that I'll mention in a minute. Um, Also, there's a second power supply in here. This longer silver one is the motor power supply, and it provides the power to drive these stepper drivers. I'm saying stepper drivers because they don't look like servo drives to me, but I could be wrong. Um, Across the top here, you've got the X, the Y, the Z, and this is probably the A or B for a fourth axis drive. So 4 motors, or it may be the slave drive to the y-axis. So if he's got 2 motors driving the long axis of the mill, for instance, this could be the other one. Anyway, those would get hooked up to the stepper motors through some wiring. And we come further down. There's some connector blocks here which allow you to splice wires together to get current from one place to another. This gray box in the corner is a contactor. The biggest way to describe a contactor is it's a safety switch. When you turn on the power and to the main power, which is off outside the box right now, when you turn on that main switch and you take this control box out of e-stop, it'll probably energize that contactor, and you'll hear a sound as the electromagnet inside of it pulls down and makes the contacts, and that turns on the power to different things inside of here, like the variable frequency drive, which is down here, which controls the spindle speed. This silver box in between is probably a noise filter, so it cancels out static and radio noise inside of the box. Anyway, this was a picture that the things were far enough apart that you could see them. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, the lower right looks like a spindle controller.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. This is a variable frequency drive here,
Yeah,
VFD.
yeah.
Yep. And it's got a detachable keypad, so he may actually mount this portion of it on the door of this enclosure. Um, so I don't know where he got this box that he's got his components in. It looks to be plastic, but the one thing that I did want to share um, is one that I just recently bought um, last it was around Black Friday or so last year, and they're not terribly expensive um, anymore on Amazon. This may change, you know, depending on well, a lot of stuff may go up in price. But for instance, this was an $89 box. This one is steel, and it comes with a bottom panel, which you can see highlighted here, which you can mount um, marine plugs to plug in your stepper motors and things like that. Um, it comes with, you know, gaskets and things to put around different cutouts that you might have, and it comes with a back panel. I paid when I got mine on Black Friday sale. I think I paid $60 for it. So you see these in different sizes and prices, but this is the same size. Actually, this is the size of the one that I bought. The one I bought was 20 by 16 by 10. But you know, you get varying prices depending on which size box you choose. You know how big the components are that you need. But some of these are not expensive at all. Um, let's see, 16 by 12 by 8. It's smaller than the one I bought, but this was around the price I bought it for on Black Friday. So still, even so, when I was building my milling machine, my first milling machine, the Grizzly, these boxes were almost $300. So anyway, they have them. If you're trying to look for one to buy for your project, the thing that you could search is either NEMA enclosure or waterproof electrical enclosure. Um, Either way, and you'll find these listed all throughout um, Amazon and other places. They're not as expensive as they used to be. So um, just information for anybody that's looking at that. I can put a link to this one in the post if anybody's interested.
I just obtained a nice Vivor enclosure. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, that's a much smaller size than the one that I got. If I didn't want a hernia, I would go out and grab it from from the garage, bring it in and show you.
comes with keys and everything.
Yep, and they're really nice. You know, the board that's inside the back plane, the back pane board or back plane board, not sure which they call it. It's a metal board with 4 screws holes in it that you can bolt into the box, but it allows you to take that metal plate out of the box, lay out all your components, and get them all wired up and everything, and then put the whole assembly in one
Right,
instead of sitting there trying to work around the edges of the box.
right.
Yep. I can see you've got one in that. Yep.
Yep. And it's got the cup. You can put the holes in here for your nipples for all your wiring and all that.
Yep.
I think I really like this box.
Yeah, it looks good. Do you remember how much you paid roughly?
I think it was $24.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it was
I think your cat likes it too.
really low cost.
Yeah. Now you don't have to put your spindle inside of the same box like that one showed earlier. In fact, it's probably better if you don't
Yeah,
from
I
a
agree.
interference. But you can do it, and that one will probably be fine. Particularly since he's got the filters in there. Yeah, really cool. I'm glad I mentioned that, and you had one to share. So that's perfect.
I got too much stuff.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm just thankful that I have the resources to be able to do this stuff. I can't imagine being retired and being forced to sit in your recliner every day and all you could do is watch TV. Watch TV. That would be no fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, he said that would be no fun as he leans back in the lazy boy.
Uh, it's only fun in the evenings.
Yep.
This is my napping chair.
Yeah. So, Scott, what's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. I was still working on that VBA project I was told you guys about last week, and the guy that I made that inlay program for his tabletop, he got that cut out and it worked pretty good. Only took 45 minutes.
Excellent. Excellent. What was your software projecting it was going to take?
About an hour, something like
Oh,
that. But
that's
I
not
found,
bad. You're close. Just a little bit of adjustment, and you should get you know
yeah, I
closer.
got, yeah, I got that adjusted. Trying to find a picture of it and I'll show you guys. Let me see here.
Sure, nobody's trying to leave me a message inside of Facebook while you're doing that. Um, I saw a message here from Howard Williams that said he wanted to learn more. Um,
There it is right there.
just
You
a
can't hardly tell because he's got the fishbone pattern in there or herringbone pattern in there, but it's got the did a pretty good job. I would like to see the bottom a little bit cleaner, but I think that's the cutter that they use weren't a true end
Mm-hmm.
mill.
Yep,
But if he's
that did
using
come out
colored
nice.
if he's using colored epoxy, and I don't think that'll make a difference. But I didn't see any chip out, like I was afraid there would be. They did
Mm-hmm.
use a down cut, so turned out pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, you get a good bit that's sharp. You don't generally have too much issue.
Yep.
Yep. The black walnut.
Um, I honestly I don't know what it was. I think it was just um it it looks like black walnut, but I don't know if he did the herringbone pattern itself and glued it all up, or if it was just glued up pieces he cut at angles and then did it. I'm not sure exactly how he did it. Looks
He
like
pra- he
black
pra-
walnut
I
or
would guess he did that pattern on purpose.
oh yeah,
It's not an easy pattern.
no,
Well, it's
he
not
did a good
super
job.
hard, but.
Looks like he cut it in strips.
Yeah, I love watching the YouTube videos where somebody's working on a project like that, and they will like they're making a cutting board with like a Cubert pattern in it or
Hmm.
whatever, and to see the process they go through to lay it out ahead of time so that they can cut it with all the right angles so that when they finally put it all together, everything lines up. They're much better at geometry than I am because
Yeah. Or
yeah.
barn quilt. A lot of people do those barn quilts, and they're look complicated too.
Yeah. Um, there's some pretty cool ones out there. Let me see. Oh, Lord.
He probably used scrap um, butcher block or countertop that they got, because I know they did a big job that had a wooden butcher block
Hmm.
countertops on the kit on the thing, and they had a bunch of that laying around there. So he probably just used that and cut it in strips and got the angles and all.
Hmm.
I'll have to ask him next time I talk to him.
Well, there's a lot of videos in it, where guys show how they're going about it. Um, Kind of interesting. I'm trying to see here if I can find one real quick. Um, uh, the one that I did find that's using that exact pattern is not a great one. So I mean, it's a good one, but it's not. Let's see. I'm trying to find the one where the guy glues up three boards at a time instead of like this guy did, where he cut up one block after another, which sounds pretty labor intensive to me.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of clamps and stuff too.
okay, yeah, this one's 4 minutes if I don't fast forward. All right, yeah, let's check this one out if y'all are interested. Um,
Sure.
well, there with sound. I'm gonna speed it up, and then I'm gonna turn on the sound. Apparently,
For a 3D cutting board, Kubert style, I've made two before.
we're gonna go 1.5 times.
But I screwed up the last one, and I thought I would go on and try to explain kind of how you do this. But this is going to be in several different parts. And what I'm going to do is go through with you as I do it, show you what I've done, and give you the sizes that'll need to be done. Now, to begin with, you will need three contrasting woods. Of course, I'll be using maple, cherry, and walnut. Those three.
He's using maple,
And
cherry, and walnut.
you have to build them up into planks. Now, the widest walnut I had was 3/4 of an inch. You can use 1 inch. The maple can be ½ inch. But no matter what size you use for the walnut and the cherry's got to be set up the exact same way. The maple should be exactly half the size. I think it's 3/8 if memory serves. But I actually spent a whole day doing nothing but planing maple. And a little cheap DeWalt planer ain't worth 2 cents. I need an industrial one. But we're going to end up with 6 of these blanks. It might actually give us 2 boards. I'm not 100% sure. But one tip I found out, because these boards waste a lot of wood. The wider the blanks you do, like these are 6 inches wide, because I actually had to order the cherry, and that was the widest I can get from Woodcraft without calling them up saying, hey, I need specialty boards. But the wider the blanks that you do, the less waste you have. The more cuts you can make in one thing. So I do recommend you making these as wide as possible.
All right, let's see what
These are
else he's
36
doing.
inches long, probably about an inch. And then cut them at the next step is easy. The one after that is where, if you're not careful, you'll get screwed up. This is actually MTM Wood designed, and they're the ones he's the fellow that actually comes up with all of these crazy, beautiful cutting boards. If you haven't seen his channel, and if you're a woodworker and haven't seen his channel, I don't know what
Oh
you're doing
well,
woodworking.
this was
He is,
disappointing because he didn't get to it. And the preview, it looked like he might. Uh, you got to cut these at a 45-degree angle or something like that. Um, yeah, let's see. Oh, anyway, you get the idea. There's a lot that goes into making a pattern like this.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Uh, Maybe the best place I should have looked would have been like Instagram because they do it faster. Yeah. Just building up stacks of bundles like that. But there's also ways to do this where you're using entire rows at a time.
Mhm.
Because frankly, one at a time like that would probably drive me crazy.
Give me
Uh,
vertigo just looking at it.
you can't deny that they're beautiful, but I don't think you're probably getting your money's worth time wise.
No, I mean, if you're doing it for yourself or a family member or something like that, or a heirloom type thing, then it
Yeah.
would be worth it, But to sell, probably not. Not for a cutting board. Who wants a cutting board that fancy?
Mm, yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Well, yeah, you'd be surprised. People pay money, good money for a lot of stuff.
Becomes kitchen art.
Yep.
Yeah. Hello, Milo.
Hey, yeah, I was tied up here, but I was watching and listening.
Yeah. Um, I, if I have time, I know that I just recently saw one where the guy was doing this pattern with entire widths of the thing done in each board. When he was done, he'd glue them up and flip them over and establish the pattern without having to do that meticulous every single um, layer like that guy had to do. I mean, that's you get the clamping wrong on that, and you've ruined the whole project.
Yep.
I got some software that I bought 10 years ago, maybe, and I just checked to see if it was still there, and it is. Uh, Let me pop it up here. Come on, there we go.
Yeah.
And where are you? Called Wood Turner Pro, and then this program is called Lamination Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And I've used it to do some segmented bowls, and you can do the same thing on flat work. And it is extremely accurate. Let's see if they can, do they have any screenshots here? I mean, it isn't bad. It's $139 for
Mm-hmm.
3 different programs, or $110 for portions of it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Software. No, I don't see pictures. But it tells you if you put in the width of the board and then you cut it at an angle and you tell it to flip and flop and rotate, it will tell you exactly what kind of an image you're going to get.
Hmm.
It is extremely accurate. I was very, very impressed. I made one mistake. I did this eagle, did a slight variation of it, and then when I went to cut it, I cut it backwards, but it turned out really well. I mean, it extremely accurate if you want to get into that type of stuff, because you can put in the colors of the woods, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're fussy and you get your measurements right, a drum sander is nearly essential
Mm-hmm.
to get everything exactly the right size. But if you get everything exactly right, it really comes out accurate.
My friend Phil DiCarlo does some amazing wood turning, and he uses his CNC router to put inlays inside it, etc. When he's doing the segmenting bowls and things like that. He does some really nice work. I think I've shared pictures of some of his stuff before, but yeah, I'm just humbled by people who will take the time to learn that process and how to make each of those in his case he's making ring segments and stacking them up. um that's a lot of work, a lot of work.
I think the largest vase that I've done is 1,000 pieces,
Mm,
and use a jig. And once you get the jig set, then it's just cutting and assembling.
hmm
And like mentioned earlier, a lot of clamps.
yeah. I located one of Phil's designs. It's on another group that I have as well. um let me Well, the easiest way is to just show you the top uh, view, because I got him set up as the featured turn at the top of this group page. This is one of his bowls,
Wow.
or vases actually. This one has some pieces of metal in it as well. He goes through all kinds of variations to come up with his stuff. If I can find some more of his stuff. Yeah. Just amazing work. So I thought you guys would appreciate this.
Yeah, looks good.
I mean, look at how, he worked in the metal into this design.
Got all those fine lines in there.
hmm Yeah. So
It's
anyway,
kind of interesting to mix different types of things, whether it's flat work
hmm
or rotary or traditional lathe. There's no
yeah.
such thing as one tool does everything.
hmm Uh, he goes by the exotic woodworker when you're looking for his stuff. But look at that. I didn't see that one. Pretty cool. Anyway, but I'm trying to find the one that he did that had the CNC details in it as well. Anyway, he's a craftsman of the first magnitude. He does everything well. I've known him since I was in high school. Uh, just just amazing work, and I I wish that I had the follow through to dedicate to an project like this one. I mean, look at that, just gorgeous. All right. Anyway, thought you guys would enjoy some of that. If you wanted to know where you could see more of that, that's inside of wood turner, the wood turning group on Facebook, um, where like we do with the CNC routers, for those guys who are into lathes, um, they can um, they can do things with the wood turning group, and you get all kinds of really cool projects going there. Milo, what new techniques have you got to share tonight? Anything?
Nothing new right now. I was messing with SolidWorks, making up a ATC uh, the plastic fork holder,
Hmm. Yep.
and got it all put together. I mean, it's like everything else. The more accurate you are, the better the result is.
Yeah.
The vectors were slightly off, and you could see it. And I don't know SolidWorks good enough yet to be able to draw as easy there as in another program.
Hmm.
I drew all the vectors in Corel Draw and got them where I wanted them, and then exported them over to SolidWorks to do the 3D modeling. And had to follow a few tutorials, but it's interesting learning other pieces of software.
Yeah.
Either you end up figuring out what you have is pretty good, or yeah, maybe you need to look at something else as well.
Yeah.
But kind of going toward that 3D printing type of work. Saying, okay, if you're going to do that, you may need to learn something else because not everything is going to work the same. But playing with it, I think a lot of that might be able to be cut within Vectric software.
Hmm.
You won't get a view of it, but doing side cutting with a side cutting square, what do they call it? Slot cutter,
Yeah.
to go around it on portions of it. But yeah, still playing.
Mm.
I wish they would get it where you could use where it would show undercuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to see it. You just have to trust that, okay, this is going to do what I think it's going to do.
Yeah.
Mm. Um, I like SolidWorks. I don't own SolidWorks, but I've used it in the past. Um, it's what we it's one of the programs that we teach at the college. Um,
Yeah, the educational version is extremely affordable.
yeah, yeah. I just oh, okay. I'm kind of multitask here and it's not working. Uh, I just wish I had the time to take a deep dive into it and get really good with it. Um, but I really don't haven't done that so far. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot about Rhino. I haven't really used it. I've seen tutorials on it. I
mhm.
mean, I think any one company comes up with a good idea, the next company tries to figure out a way to steal
Oh yeah, definitely.
or creatively copy.
Hmm. Yep.
But
Um,
yeah, the 3D world it's different.
definitely is. And you do a lot with the 2D drawing, but the 3D, you get to the point where you're really good with 2D and you're like, yeah, I can do anything. And then you switch over to 3D and suddenly things are challenging again. And
It's like you're starting over almost.
yeah, but if you can think in 3D, then it's not so bad. Um, Now, I got something that I just bought yesterday, a set of plans to go with my Tarmac. And it's done up in 3D as well. Um, let's see. Yeah, good. I'm going to share the screen again. So one of the things that I wanted to add to my machine was a fourth axis. And there's a fellow who came up with a set of plans that he sells for $10. And this is the fourth axis that he made himself, and it's bigger than the one that Tormach offers. Tormach offers a 3 or 4 inch, I believe it's micro arc they call it. This one is a 5-inch machine, and turn a few things off to get you an idea of what this thing is like. I'm going to turn off a few of the items here and just turn back on some of the things. Now he sells these plans. I'm not going to share these with anybody or anything, but he does a really good job, and I can't wait to build this thing. But he starts out with this frame. This is the whole basis of the thing. It's a solid piece of metal that you have to machine. And inside of that, he uses a drive. It's called a walking wave. Is one way they describe them. Drive, but this is what that drive looks like. And you can get these on eBay or whatever. And let me put some pulleys on and a stepper motor. That's the mount for the stepper motor. There's the stepper motor itself. But I'm going to turn those off and put on some pulleys so you can see how he put this together. Here's the pulley, and there's another one here somewhere, right above it. Okay, so you can see he'd be driving the pinion pulley would drive the large pulley with a belt. Using a NEMA 23 or 24 motor. And that's really all that's going on inside of there. There's some bearings and things like that, but back plate of the drive bolts right to it, and then shows a 3-inch chuck. It puts a handle on top of it. It's really kind of neat. And this bottom plate bolts to that main frame, and these slots align with the slots on the milling machine table bed. And he's got the T-nuts, etc. Anyway, it's really kind of cool. There's a back cover that keeps all of the water and coolant and dirt and chips out of there, and little door, so you could slide this door up and slide a long piece of material through the back of it. It's got a hollow bore going down the center of this the unit. So you could, I don't know if it's an inch or what the diameter is here yet, but depending on which drive you bought, you would, that would determine what bore you got. But it's really kind of neat. And $10 set of plans, I don't know how long it would have taken me to draw up a similar project on my own. But I do know Yeah, he's already done the engineering. Why should I bother?
Yeah.
Now, he said that he had about $700 into this entire unit, and the one that Tormach sells is just under. Uh, well, first off, they don't sell one that's this large. But if you compared it to the one they sell, which is slightly smaller, that one is like three grand, I think, ready to go. So I'm kind of excited about this because I I would be able to do some machining where I machine on 3 or 4 sides of the part before I have to change the fixture to finish off the other 2 edges that would be left. So kind of neat, and I believe you could adapt something like this for use on one of our routers fairly easily. So
And I notice a lot of this obviously comes from the metal world, trying to adapt it into the wood world.
yeah,
Because the 3-jaw chucks, you almost never see that on the wood side.
yeah, yeah. There's you could substitute out many different chucks into this. If you wanted to use like a wood lathe style chuck on here, you could, or like I imagine with some modification you could use like a 5C chuck, um, or something. But he also offers a trunnion table, which will hold one of those little Chinese vices, and I think that was pretty cool. Let me see if I can see that really quick. Uh, Open. Now, I'm not sure with all the things that are going live and everything, just how long it's going to take to load this sucker. But go up a level. Here's the trunnion, right? No. Yeah, I think this is it. So if you imagine this back plate here being replaced, it only shows the back place of the vise, but you get an idea of how handy this would be as soon as it loads. We'll know.
So that's the headstock. Does he have the plans for the tailstock too, or is that just something you had to come up on your own?
You don't really need a tail stock on this. So this is replacing the chuck that we saw in the other um, drawing. It's this. Turn off the vise for a second. Move the other one somewhere. Okay, so in metalworking, there's this thing that's all the rage right now. It's called 0 point reference. So every CNC project we have, we've got to tell it where X, Y, and Z0 is, right? Everybody following me?
Yep.
In machining, where they're doing 4 and 5 axis machining, um, if you go and you set the X, Y, Z on the edge of a part, and then you start running the machine, most times that where you set it up disappears because you've cut it away. So instead, they're setting up the Z0 to be universal on all of these things. And I don't know where he's got it set on here, but I imagine this hole is probably one of the measurement points. This face is another. And some particular point on the vise, all right, or whatever. Anyway, right through the center of the spindle, right in the middle of this part. So every part they set up on here is using the same XYZ0 in relation to this thing. And so it doesn't matter what you stick in there. You just got to tell it where the edge of your part is, and you're done. The CAD file takes care of the rest. So this thing could be, rotating, and I don't know if I can make it rotate. Yeah,
That's
my
how it would
mouse.
do if I build it.
Yeah, my mouse skills aren't quite good enough to do what I'm trying to talk about. But you can see how it would rotate around in in the fourth axis, while the spindle would come up and down, cutting up and down, left and right, or whatever, to make the part, which you can hold in the vise. Now this vise is a self-centering vise. When you tighten the screw here, both of the jaws move together, and it's got a dovetail joint here that bites into the piece of material to hold it in place. So this surface right here is a known distance, and it is flat and parallel. So your piece is resting on there, and so it's always flat and parallel when it gets crunched in there. So anyway, that's this was included if you wanted to make this part to go along with your fourth axis. And these vices are available for about $100, 70, $80 actually, on eBay, pre-tariff. That's probably a 3-inch jaw opening or whatever on these vices. So it's a really neat setup for somebody that wants to get into fourth axis machining without the big price associated with it. Your big expense is this piece of metal and the piece of metal on the other. Where are we? No, that ain't it. In the frame, the first big piece I showed you, because that's like a 6x6 piece of aluminum that's 3 inches thick. So that's your biggest prices on these things. It's still not bad. So anyway, if anybody'd like information on where I got that, I will dig it up and post it. He even had wiring diagrams and stuff. There was PDFs and everything. He's on his third revision of the plans, and he gives you every revision he had when he did it. So it's a no-brainer to send the guy $10 for plans like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Even if I never build it. Harmonic drive is the term I was looking for earlier that I didn't. I knew I couldn't remember it because I'm thinking cycloidal drive, and that's not it. It's harmonic drives. That's what he's using for this. They're very accurate, very low backlash, extremely. They call it no backlash, but that's impossible. But really impressive drive units. They use them in robot arms. And that drive is probably the first or second most expensive part of that. It's probably $200. Like a 50-to-1 drive or whatever you get on eBay. I don't know. Was that boring or was that worth seeing?
Oh no, yeah, that was neat.
Yeah.
The technology available.
Yep.
You just don't know for sure what you need to do what you want to do.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Well, and the 3D printing software, like from Bamboo, the slicer, I guess they call it.
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty doggone capable.
Yeah.
I was rather impressed. So that's what 3 pieces of software I had involved
Mm-hmm.
to get to one point. Uh, but yeah, there's a lot of technology involved.
Yeah. Here's what a harmonic drive looks like real quick. On this one's on eBay. I don't know if it's the right one. I just picked one from at random. I just typed in harmonic drive, but that's what the part that bolts into that looks like. You know, they're not. They're a fascinating piece of machinery. Let me put it that way. But yeah, they're
The price doesn't seem to be that obscene, really.
no, it's not. Those were used or new old stock ones, that are out there. If you bought it new, you might go, you know,
Choke a
and
little.
yeah, because there were some up the top of the page that were $2,000. But it's like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'd much rather buy it for 100 to 200 than $2,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait
Yeah.
till they come out with a new version. You could buy the old version cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I've seen the picture of his completed drive unit. He's actually built one. Um, I don't know. I don't know for a fact that it will work with my machine yet. And by that I mean the base plate, the mounting plate that he had with this spacings on the bottom. He designed it for the 770 model of routing or of milling machine, and I have the 1100, which is larger. I don't know if the slot spacing is the same on both tables. So, oh, big deal. Everything else would work. I would just have to modify the file to have the right slot spacing, and then I'd be off and running. He may even have that as far as, if I were to ask. But that was the first thing I thought about when I downloaded the plan. But I just got them last night. First thing, I think it's the first set of plans I've spent money on in a while. Um, but it was like, oh yeah, yeah, this is like buying the guy a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
for the work he put in, and that's a lot of work. Um, yeah, let's see, can I find really quickly the picture where he posted um, his completed unit, where he showed it? We shall see. But I don't know. It's kind of I used to feel really bad about posting stuff for and about the Tormach in a router group page, but the reality is somewhere some guy who got started with CNC routing is going to decide to go out and um, get a Tormach or a Haas or some other milling machine, because that it's just one of those progressions. You know, if you want to get into metalworking, some people do. I wanted to. So, um, it's just it's just one of those things. So if you guys, the fellows in the group, the fans out there, or the members of the group, or whatever, who have an opinion uh, about this thing, if you'd rather not hear about this stuff, let me know. Write a comment. If you'd like to hear more, well, we got that covered too. But anyway, here's I'm going to share the post really quick, where I found this inside of the one of the Tormach users groups, and Charlie Stevens is the guy who put this out. And let's see if there's the link here. Any more comments? Where he tells you what page. That's what I'm really looking for. Mm, mm, mm. Well, as soon as I find it, I will post it. But this is what his finished unit looks like. Pretty nice.
It
Pretty
looks
nice.
very nice.
Yeah, it looks very professional. If you looked at what Tormach offers, you know, other than the shape of the case being different, like you do a double take to see, you know, this is the same level of quality in both of these units. And I like the fact that this one's bigger because my machine is bigger. Anyway, thought I'd share that. I will post the link as soon as I find it. No sense in trying to dig through all of that while I'm sitting here online because, you know, have to read 62 comments to find the link. So there it goes. But Charlie, great job. Great job on that. And only $10. Yeah, I'm not shilling for Charlie here. I'm just saying that.
He did that just for himself, and then thought, well, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, $10 is nothing for the time put in.
Yeah. And you know, when you think about it, if there's probably only a few hundred guys maybe in the world who want to build this, but if they bought it at $10, that's enough to buy some nice equipment at some point when if you keep it all, or you know, maybe put it away. He's never going to get rich doing this, but what a great service he did for
Yeah.
us. Yep. Um, let's see. Anyone who's purchased the plan set.
Huh.
Of course, I didn't think to have the link ready before I started all of this, but I'm sure I'll find it. Maybe I'll just send a message to Charlie. Hey, send it back, and I'll put a link because somebody's going to want to know about this. All right. Anyway, moving on.
Well, it's just like everything else. So this type of thing is very applicable because it may trigger another thought down the road that you didn't intend on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody will say, "Oh, I can make a harmonic drive fourth axis like that. Why not 5-axis?" You
Yeah.
know, and put a harmonic drive in the base of that second trunnion table that I showed you. Now you're spinning the vise as well as spinning the vise.
Yeah.
You know?
It all starts out with I wonder what if.
Yeah, yeah. Those plates I was trying to make for a friend who's a photographer that you know that had to be machined on all 6 sides of the block. You know, that's a lot of different positions that you had to account for as you're machining this thing. But you put it in a fourth axis. Now you can do that side, you can rotate, you can do that side, you rotate, you can do that side, you can rotate, you can do that side, right? And then take it out, stand it up, do that side, stand it up, do that side, you're done. But that was 3 work changes instead of 6.
Yeah.
You know, any day that's a better solution. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, you could get it down to two. If instead of supporting the piece on the end when you rotated it to drill in the top, you grabbed it in the middle. Now you can just rotate and do the two.
Yeah.
So two setups. Thank you, brain.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's more fun trying to figure it out rather than produce it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely more fun to try and figure it out than to produce it. Um, hmm. Yeah. Well, now that you've given us a good source of thread mills that I didn't know about, this makes that project even more attractive
Yeah.
because most of the thread sizes are 60 or the 60-degree angle on the thread or
Right.
whatever. And so even though the pitch and the diameter has changed, the bit hasn't. So I can do 2 or 3 different hole sizes with one um, thread mill. And then the other one that I can't do, well, so now I only have 2 thread mills I have to worry about instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, you know,
Right.
I love it. Yep.
Huh. Yeah, I was doing a no brain work today, prepping a bunch of wood.
Hmm.
Every woodworker has pieces of wood that you just can't throw out.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you get an avalanche and you go, okay, I got to do something here.
Somebody did a video short when father and son were working together. They said, if only I had a piece of wood that did this. And the father goes, and you see him runs down the hall. He gets to the box, he starts digging through, and he's like, bing, ah, and he comes running back in, son. Here you go. He says, that's the exact part he's been saving for 15 years, waiting for one thing. And
Yep.
they high five. uh, yeah.
I'm bad about that, holding
Hmm.
on to stuff like that. But, as soon as you toss it out, the very next time you turn around, you're going to need it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I've got all
It's
this
just
black.
keeping it organized,
Yeah. I've got a garbage bag full of black walnut offcuts that are 3 inches thick, and varying sizes from way too small to not quite big enough to do what you want. And um, keep wondering what to do with them. Every now and then I say, if I just got a bunch of epoxy and some pigments and I just laid them out, I could make, some random shaped thing. But that's a real waste of black walnut, turning it into a river table.
Yeah.
Well, and I've got a piece of wood that has flame patterns on it, and it's spalted maple,
Hmm.
but the spalting is just unbelievable. And it's been sitting there for probably 10 years.
Hmm.
I thought, okay, I'm never going to turn it into something. Yeah, I might screw it up,
Hmm.
but just sitting there isn't doing a darn thing.
Yeah. Actually, there was one guy just asked a question this week about spalted maple. He says, "Hey, Bill, what do you know about spalted maple?" I says, "All I know is you got to stabilize it." And he's like,
Depends
uh,
on how deteriorated it is.
"Yeah." And he's like, he had like 8 foot live edge, um, 2 or 3 boards of 8 foot by I don't know how wide pieces of live edge spalted maple. And he was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And I'm saying, well, if you want the most money out of it, you turn it into pen blanks.
Yeah.
Custom made toothpicks.
Yeah, yeah, even better. But yeah, it's always interesting. You look at a big board like that, and you're like, "Ooh, I can turn that into a table and get $1,000 for it." But if you turn it into pen blanks and drill them all out and everything, you could probably get a couple grand for it.
Yeah.
You know?
I've never worked with spalted wood at all. I was unaware of having to stabilize it. I know it would probably keep deteriorating
I
over
I think
time.
it's more that it can be like mushy.
Spongy, yeah,
Yeah.
punky.
Uh,
Yeah.
the
It
everybody go ahead.
depends, uh, as to how bad it was. Uh, the fungus or whatever it is staining the wood.
Hmm.
If it's ready to fall down when they harvest it, then that's one thing. But
Hmm.
I've seen some that is extremely solid.
Yeah.
I suppose it all depends on the point that it's harvested.
Yeah, you
Yep.
could probably harvest it and put it away, and it will spalt itself after it's been harvested and sawed up in the lumber, wouldn't it? Or just harvest the log and store the log somewhere. Just let it do the spalting itself.
Good question.
Yeah.
I know back when I had a sawmill, I ran into a lot of spalted lumber or logs, especially if the customer had cut it down like 3 or 4 years prior, and it just sat back there, and they finally, decided to get it sawed up. It was like, sawed up seasoned firewood.
Hmm. Um, let's see. I'm trying to get this thing uh, back to the beginning here. Um, I found the video I was looking for about the spalted. Um, this is really quick Instagram thing. This fella just put the spalted maple into the resin.
I think we'll let it sit here for a couple minutes before we move it. It'll soak it up. Okay, so I edited that, but this bucket's only been sitting here about 3 minutes while I was mixing up another gallon. That's how much resin has already disappeared. Ooh, did you get that on full now? I think we'll let it sit here for a couple minutes.
Yeah, so as you can see, that sucker was just soaking up that resin like crazy. If it took that much in 3 minutes, uh,
It's funny.
What does it do? Harden it from inside
well, it's
out?
resin is like acrylic
Yeah.
or epoxy. So yeah, you were gonna say, Milo?
Funny you didn't draw a vacuum on it.
Yeah, didn't seem like you needed one.
Yeah, that must have been like a
It's like
regular sponge.
Yep.
putting piece of MDF in there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I imagine. Yeah, go
I've
ahead.
done some stabilizing with vacuum, and when I was first doing this, has been 15 years ago, probably.
Hmm.
And I was talking with the guy that was selling the resin at the time. I said, "Here, I've got two pieces of wood. They're both in there. One of them barely broke the surface when I was stabilizing it, and the other one went all the way through."
Hmm.
And he said, "It's the moisture in the wood." He said, "I'm talking, it's got to be dead dry." I was doing pen blanks.
Hmm.
And he said, "Yep, if the wood isn't cotton dry,
Hmm.
it will not take resin." Is that it has to replace the moisture with the resin. And when you pull a vacuum on there, you'll see little champagne bubbles coming out.
Yeah.
And he said that's actually the vacuum reducing the boiling temperature of the water. And he said that's the water coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I go, okay. And he says, yep, when the champagne bubbles stop, then you release the vacuum and all the voids get replaced with the resin. And then cooked it in a little toaster oven, basically. And it works pretty good.
Mm.
I've stabilized burls before, and that stuff, the direction of the wood is everywhere, so it's really tough to turn something really small and
Yeah.
have any strength to it. But once you stabilize it with, you basically turning it into plastic.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks really good.
Yeah. When they cut that on the lathe or on the router, it actually, the chips that come off are actually a lot like, just acrylic,
Yeah,
stringy plastic, not so much wood like anymore.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. This is terrible of me, but there's this big tree. Every time we have a big storm come through, I drive through the next day to see if it maybe has come down, because it is just full of burl all over, and there not hasn't been a leaf on that tree for 5 years. It's probably rotten inside or whatever, but if it isn't, there's literally a burl list, you know, that big on the front of it, and there's two or three smaller ones on the other sides of the trunk.
Well, and I get a kick out of it because you go to a sawmill and they figure that's the garbage wood.
Yep. Yeah.
And
If they only, well, the smart ones know, but
yeah, yeah. If you're looking for
They,
just
they,
flat lumber, that's one thing.
they tell you, we can't give you nothing for that. That's junk, but we'll take it off your hands.
Yeah,
hmm
we'll haul it away for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll clean it up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure somebody else has figured it out on that particular tree. Uh, um,
Well, I was out in California around Bakersfield. There's a guy that was tearing down a bunch of English walnut trees. It's time to
mhm,
tear down the old, put in the new. And one of the neighbors, one of the farmers next door, he said, yeah, when they tore this down, there was a company out of Europe that came over here and they said which trees they wanted. He said, then they put a 24-hour guard on it. He said, is
mhm,
that wood really that valuable? I said, it's probably going back to Europe and in Rolls Royce or whatever else for their
Dashboards.
trimming out their cars.
Yeah.
And he goes, so they can get that much. I said, not the way that is right there, not
hmm
in the tree stump. But we brought back probably 5 or 6 tree stumps where the graft area was.
hmm
And you sliced it to make live edge out of it. We've got several of them that were at the graft point, and the Claro walnut root ball with English walnut trunk.
hmm
And that wood is unbelievable. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a fellow who came and took down a tree for us a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And he says, "Oh, that tree right there is a tamarack tree right next to it." He says, "If this one you ever have any problem with that one, call me and I'll come and get it." And I'm like, "Oh, why?" He says, "Well, there's a section of the roots that is used in I think he said yachts or something like that." He says, and he says it's hard to get, and this is a mature tree, and um, hopefully if anything ever happens to this tree, you'll remember and call me.
Well,
Yeah.
you go to the other extreme, and the people that think that that tree is bars of gold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, standing up there, ready to break off a branch, isn't worth much.
Nope. Nope. But once you take it down, you dig it all up if you have to, or whatever, cut it up into nice long pieces, or rings, or whatever it is that's hot right now. Live edge slabs. Now it's worth, you
Yeah,
know, some money, especially after you've kiln dried it. No.
was playing around here. I brought up an old file. We were talking about that segmented work.
Mm-hmm.
I put together a picture file.
Oh, good.
Here, I'll bring this up. I'd done this 13 years ago. Oops, let's start up here. All that
Can
wood
you
that you
can
can't.
you enlarge that any, Milo?
Yeah, I can. Let's see. Let's see.
There you
That's
go. That's good.
Oh, that's good enough.
Yep.
That wood that you can't throw away. And this is about 3/4 by 3/4, I suppose. There's some curly maple in there, some walnut, and some different size sticks. And this was the sizing and the pattern layout was done in that software program that I showed you.
Mm.
And so the thin strips are over here, the thicker strips are over here. And I usually do two bowls at once or two projects at once, where one is a dark with light strips and a light with dark strips. So they're
Mm-hmm.
just opposites of each other. Uh, Cut those strips at an angle. And these are as they're cut apart. And then they're stood up straight, had a slight angle to them. Tape works great to keep them from sliding side to side. But I pretty well had them contained because glue is an excellent lubricant.
Yes, it is. Slip and slide.
Oh, then little wax paper to try to keep everything from getting glue all over it. But this holds it down flat. This is as they were glued together, and then cut a second time, and then flip every other one. And now you can start to see a little bit of the pattern coming in through here. And then these were cut into segmented rings, held flat so that they wouldn't bow. I've got them down to 3/64 of an inch to where they're super thin on some of these. Uh, this is some of the thicker pieces, but oddly enough, when you go in there to make a wider ring and split it, they hold together. I've had it down to, like I said, 3/64 of an inch, and the joints held. I was really surprised. This was a jig that I hit bringing out a disc sander. As it slides down here, this corner will hit here, and every one of these are exactly the same size. You could take a caliper and I can get it within less than the width of the needle. Consistency. It's amazing how consistent they can be. I'm after a lot of consistent, or not a lot of pressure, but consistent pressure to glue these rings together. Here the bowls are coming together completed. This is after they're glued up. And they look terrible at this point. I'll flip down through here, and the inside.
This is gonna be gorgeous.
And here's one getting ready to turn on this is just an MDF plate. A lot of times I'll just stick hot glue in here and run it like a caulking a bead. And then it starts to take shape after you turn it. And there's that curly maple starting to come through. And then here's flipping it around to do the inside. But yeah, after they're finished and finished put on them, here was 4 different designs that I'd made. The inside, it looks just as good as the outside.
Well,
That's nice.
I see that eagle in the one as well.
Well,
We're
and
gonna-
this one here, the eagle was intended to be exactly the same as this one.
Mhm.
But I flipped it instead of flopping it.
Mhm.
And darned if I didn't go back on that program, did it exactly the way I should have done it, or the way it turned out, and it simulated exactly the same. Sold this one down at the Air Force Academy to a lady that said, "Oh no, that's the Thunderbird." And I go, "Why, yes, it is. Whatever you say it is." Yeah, getting the angles right. Now on this one, this turned into a kaleidoscope. Instead of a kaleidoscope, this is a teleidoscope. You have a lens and a round crystal ball, and whatever you look at gives you a kaleidoscope type of finish. But the part of this that really I thought turned out good is use this as a jig to cut the angles on a table saw. And then, whoops. Let's see, let's take this down just a little bit. Hose clamps, making a 6-sided cylinder. And put tape on the back side of it to keep it from sliding, and then laid it out flat, apply glue, roll it together, clamp it with hose clamps. And then I had already done this on a pen blank, is to put a Celtic knot in there.
Mhm.
And so here you're cutting out, and the secret is whatever angle you're going to cut, I had laid these out and wrote what angle I wanted where. And this one I figured was going to be called a drunken Irishman, is whatever you cut out of here, you got to put back. So if you got an 1/8 inch blade that you're cutting, you want to put an 1/8 inch filler strip back in there and then glue it back together. And here's the angle of the face cut, and measuring exactly what the width was to put it back in there. These are the spacer boards that are going to be put in there.
Mhm.
You glue them back together and you keep these lines lined up. And cut it, slice it, fill it, cut it again, slice it, fill it. Here's the second going in. Here's the third or fourth one going in. And it looks terrible when you finally get
It's
it done.
complex.
But when you turn it, and like I say, these corners here, I knew were going to be turned away, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But when these things are actually turned, all of a sudden,
Wow.
all of a sudden the sharp corners turn into nice loops, and it's the most gorgeous piece of wood you've ever seen.
It looks good.
Mhm.
And this one was Like I said, I just called this one the Drunken Irishman because I had all kinds of different angles on it. And I guess that was the last picture. I don't have one of them where it was finished. But yeah, this turned out really nice. From this nasty looking thing to where when you turn it around, all the shape comes up.
So did you have that final image there in your head when you were doing the gluing up the blank and all that? That's what you were shooting for?
Well, the first one that I was doing, I did a 45-degree angle all the way around. And if you want a 4-line Celtic knot, you keep them all the same. This one, I wanted to see what would happen if I just kept changing the angles.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of figured it was going to do something like this. Because sometimes if they're all the same, it's too symmetric.
Right.
Where this one, it turned out wild. It was actually better than I had anticipated.
I would love to see the finished piece. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to try it and see what happens.
Did you have to
I got a bunch of fancy firewood.
did you have to flex open the gap when you put in the filler piece or no?
I cut it all the way through. Let's see, let's go back here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, it's cut all the way across.
Gotcha. So
And
you're stacking then.
well, yeah, you cut one and you glue it back together. Wait
Okay.
till it dries, and then you turn it one face and cut it on your next angle,
Gotcha.
glue it back together again.
Okay, because I
So
thought
those pieces can actually be as thick as you want them. You know, if you want varying thickness, just cut a wider curve, basically.
Yes, yes. And this actually is easier to do it this way than to do them all exactly the same because you got to make sure the lines are lined up.
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
Where this one, since it's going all over the place, people can't really tell that you might have goofed up. You know, you can tell like down here if they didn't cross correctly, but you're only dealing with one section at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a 6-sided.
Yeah.
So you could do that with like a square blank.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And when you turn it around, all of a sudden you start getting arcs and everything else. It really turns out interesting.
That'd be cool to just experiment, just make a bunch of different cuts.
Well, what really works good to start with is pen blanks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small thing, you know, or this getting it into a bigger one, a 4-sided, a 6-sided, or an 8-sided type of thing, or even a 5-sided.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's kind of fun to play with. I kind of got a kick out of this one where once you cut it apart, you go, well, that's what it's doing down the middle of that. But 6-sided works really good for kaleidoscope type bodies because that 3-sided portion works good for a 3-sided mirror where you can get down here at a triangle portion of it, it fits pretty good. Basically, though, you drill this out, you hollow it out, and make it larger.
So you use a hand lathe, or a hand lathe to turn those, or you do it on your machine, CNC machine.
I didn't have a CNC machine at this time. I did all this on a manual,
Mm-hmm.
on a manual lathe.
I love the way it turned out with those circles. So that just blows the mind.
Yeah, this here, that does not look like that.
No, it doesn't.
That looks cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
What's up, Steve? How you doing? Yep.
Doing well.
Go ahead, Milo.
Yeah, like I say, making this larger could be kind of fun.
Make a nice looking lamp.
Yeah, the
or
faces.
chair leg or anything like that. Bed.
Yeah, the
Head.
matching faces have to fit because, well, here you can see you got to keep these lines straight when you're gluing it back together because this almost looks like it was an inlay.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Mhm.
You know, where the this line here keeping it straight. And that's just, you know, a little bit of attention because, like I said, when you're cutting them one at a time, it's a heck of a lot easier to concentrate on just that single joint, and everything else is whatever it is.
Can you imagine trying to do a three-dimensional inlay like that? It
Oh,
just,
yeah.
oh, to try and figure that out,
Especially
program that.
when you want to do like you say the Celtic knot where one goes under the other one like a weave.
Yep.
That's funny enough, is it turns out that way by itself.
Yeah.
When you do these, you can see where this one is underneath, or
Mm-hmm.
looks like it's underneath this one. This one's on top of this one.
Right.
By the way you cut those, it pretty well turns out that way. The first
Yeah.
time I did a Celtic knot on a four-sided pen blank, I was amazed at how it worked for not putting any plan to it. But yep, this is what you do when you go, I want to do something different today.
The good part about the pen blanks is that doesn't take quite as much um, time or material as this. But there's also a lot less room for error on the pen blank because you go too far, now you bust it through the tube.
Yep.
But yeah, looks like fun.
Well, and see, I've done a lot of pens because that's where I kind of got rolling with it, because you don't have a lot invested in it. But I threw it on the laser and I cut out the letters on the rotary on the laser and then put it back on the lathe again.
Mhm.
You can have the letters wrapping around the pen blank and then cut them out and put them back in again. And yeah, there's working underneath of a magnifying glass. You just don't want to do it if you got too much coffee.
Uh,
I was trying to find one of the pens I made. This is one that my son made. Um, this is the first pen he ever turned,
All right.
and he gave that to me. Nothing, it's pretty good for your first shot at it.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you. But I thought I had some of the others that were here, but I do not at the moment. Andy. Wait a minute. Well, maybe. Well, I take that back. They were in the wrong cup.
I found that thing I was talking about last week. It wasn't a router. It was way off. It was a plasma cutter.
Mm.
It's the controls for a plasma cutter. So way off. Torchmate. I think it was Lincoln.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy switched it over to Linux CNC.
Torchmate was expensive when it first came out. But yeah. Dave Van Antwerp made this bullet pen for me. I thought that was pretty cool. Member of our group. Let's see.
it's not a live bullet, is it?
Not any longer. No.
push the little thing to make the
Fire it off.
yeah. Oh mercy.
Yeah. Anyway, there's
Go to dot your eye. Yeah.
my daughter Danielle bought me a lathe for an anniversary a while ago, and the first thing I wanted to do was pens, and so I got I did
See,
quite a few at one point, but I haven't done any in a while, and maybe that's a good project to get out there and just turn some. I've got the parts. Yep.
is it harder to turn a pin on a full size lathe or than it is a pin lathe, one that's made for turning pins?
Not really.
The biggest thing that I like to have is variable speed. You get
Yeah.
some of the smaller lathes and they don't have the variable speed and reversible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Especially if you were doing like a CA finish, because that's super durable, but it's a pain in the neck if you don't have a variable speed lathe.
Yeah, you get yourself covered with CA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
You're
Um,
stuck on yourself then.
yeah.
yeah,
Um, and you got to build up thin layers, lots of thin layers. If you
yeah.
try and put it all on at once, it just doesn't work very well. Um, but yeah, the part I like best about the pens is you finish them right there on the lathe. You put your finish on, and that's for most lathe projects. But um, you
Well,
don't
like
tend.
if you've got a woodcraft or something or a rockler around, most of those guys have a class.
Mhm.
It's a good first class to take, and you walk away with something that say, "Yep, I did that." The woodcraft, I think all over the country, every year was around Veterans Day that they turn a bunch of pins. You go in
Mhm.
there. I made probably 30 or 40 pins one time. Is you put them together, you throw them in the box, and they send them
Overseas,
overseas
yeah.
bases. Yeah,
Um, there is a wood turning club at the New York State Fairgrounds here in Syracuse that meets, and they used to meet at an old um, Catholic high school, but that got sold, and so they had all these what is it, Penn State lathes. Um, it's the red one. I can't remember
yeah,
the name.
Yeah.
yeah. That's Penn State.
Yeah, they had a whole bunch of those with Nova Chucks and the whole 9 yards, and they had it set up as a classroom down there. And if you showed up, they would teach you how to turn. There was demonstrations. They had wood turners from all over the country come in and speak and things like that. It was fantastic. And after going there, that's when I decided that I liked that particular lathe, and that's kind of what I ended up with. But really, it was a really good resource. And then when they lost the high school, the New York State Fair gave them space, and so every year during the state fair, there is a woodworking section of the fair, and they do demonstrations all through the week, or however long the fair lasts. Um, with their members showing up. Anybody who wants to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I was
Do they,
demoing
do
at
they
the
teach you how to sharpen those chisels, those
Yeah,
gouges and stuff?
yeah, it's not too
That's a
bad.
that's the most important part, I would think, sharpening your tools like that.
yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, I taught for one of the colleges, and when they brought me in there, he says, "Yeah, we want you to teach how to turn this." I said, "No, no. The first 3 or 4 classes, they learn how to sharpen."
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
they wanted to use these carbide cutters, and I said, "Nope, that's just scraping the wood off." And I did a demo with Easy Wood Tools. When they first came out with them, they said, "Okay, if you just put it horizontal and you jam it into the wood and you cut." I go, "Okay, that's scraping the wood off. That is not cutting the wood off." Granted, they're sharp. And I said, "Do you mind if I play with this?" I said, "I'll do it when there aren't any students here." And he goes, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to see what it what else I can do. Well, all you had to do is tilt the cutter, to a 45-degree angle, and now you can shear cut it, and you get a way better finish.
Mm-hmm.
He says, well, that's not the intent of the tool. I said, yeah, but it works. And they said, well, that's not the way it was designed. I said, an engineer designed this, not a wood turner. They would have never done it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Just like it doesn't matter what it is. If you got a person that knows an old way of doing it, saying, well, wait a minute, I get really good results if I do this. So design the tool to do that.
Mm-hmm. I'm really surprised that the salesman or whoever it was, the engineer out at the thing, didn't appreciate the fact that you had just given him an additional functionality. Yes, from turning it 45 degrees. It not only cuts this way, it cuts this way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Well, and what I learned through that manual lathe makes it better to cut on the CNC
mm-hmm.
because you apply the same techniques. It's just you got to figure out how to make it do it.
Yep.
So I haven't found anybody yet that relishes the idea of sanding for 4 hours.
I've done a lot of sanding in my time, but it wasn't. I mean, it's a necessity. But if there's an easier way to do it, I definitely would embrace it.
Well, and on those wood turning tools, just like same thing as whether you do a climb cut or conventional cut on the CNC, if you cut the wood properly, you don't have to hardly sand.
Yeah.
It's almost too smooth for a finish, holding the tools properly. But
Burnishes it.
yeah, if you twist it just the wrong direction, you go from gouging it to just right to burnishing.
Mm-hmm.
And burnishing is so smooth, it feels nice, but it won't take a finish.
Not unless you
gotta rough
using
it
an
up a little bit.
oil or something like that, it probably work okay. But
Yeah.
I have seen, or I have done it myself, sanded stuff so smooth that the finish would just beat off like somebody sprayed silicone all over it.
I was working with a guy making a wine rack and a cabinet base out of Paduke. He loved Paduke, and I says, "Hey, it's got a natural oil in it already." And he sanded it down with like 400 to 600 grit. And I said, "It won't take a finish." I said, "You're going to have to go back to about 220 and leave it." And sure enough, he says, "Oh no, I want this smooth finish." It was almost glossy. He went to put a finish on it, and it wouldn't take the finish. Finishing is another art.
Yeah, I've done it for probably 30 years.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
All
I
right,
had a wood shop teacher in 7th grade, and he was an interesting character. Missing one of his fingers.
They all
Only
were.
one? I think mine was missing like 4.
Yeah, he was an interesting fella. He was all about reading the manuals.
His name weren't Norm, was
RTFM,
it?
read the fine manual.
Yeah, you didn't touch it until you read the instruction manual and took a test.
And understood it. Yep. Read and understand the manual.
And then the opposite was I can't remember the woodshop teacher's name from all these years, but the metal shop teacher, he was just like, go for it. Here's the safety instructions, read those, go play with it.
I like those kind of teachers.
Yeah, but he was his name was Daryl Middles, and other than being, go explore, go have fun, and you know, don't break it. Don't hurt yourself. If you want to actually use it and make something, then you're going to have to go through the instruction course on it. But just go play with the machine. Go see what it does. Keep your fingers out of moving parts. But he was a jerk. He liked to yell at you a lot, which he did not have a good teaching manner.
That's unfortunate. Fellas, I found the link I've been looking for all this time for the plans for the fourth axis. And I'm putting in the link in the comments and also inside of the chat here in Zoom, in case anybody was interested in finding out about it. It's iccustomsusa.com. iccustomsusa.com. He's
Fourth
got a
axis plans.
fourth axis plans. He also has some automatic tool changer plans to fit the Tormach as well. But at $10, it's a no-brainer for me. There you go. There's my plug for the day for somebody. I hope he enjoys it. It's after 9. Did you have anything in particular, Steve, that you wanted to talk about before we close up shop for the day?
No, I just want to drop in, say hi.
I'm glad you did, because it's always a pleasure. Anybody else, guys? Ned's not here, but
Yeah. I was about to ask about Ned. Has anybody heard from him? I don't know if he's dropped off the planet or.
he posted earlier today. He posted some pictures of his new CNC router that he's building. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
We
I
talked
forgot I
about
saw
that
that.
at the beginning of the show, so won't go back through that. But he's still around. He just we know he's been doing some work on that very nice house. With the CNC routing parts for that house.
Yeah.
So who knows?
He falls into work like that, don't he? Anything from the royal carriage to a multi-million-dollar staircase.
Here's the thing. I don't think when you're at that talent level that you fall into these things. I think people are saying, go see Ned.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he's the one guy who could pull it off. And yeah, so
I guess everybody heard about Barry's wife, didn't they?
yes, and yeah,
It was
one of
sad.
our regulars, Barry, his wife passed away, and she has been on the show a few times with us, and it's very sad. Her heart felt best wishes go out to Barry and his family.
I think they're
Yeah.
supposed to have her services online. Saw something like that where he posted.
So it is real
Anybody?
recent then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was last
first of
week.
the week. Yeah,
First of the week,
last week.
yeah.
Mm.
Somewhere
Yeah,
along.
I reached out to him earlier, but thank you for reminding me, Scott.
It's always sad to hear anything like that. I couldn't. I mean, I would be just totally lost. Something like that happened to my wife. I wouldn't be able
Mhm.
to function.
Yeah.
It's just like losing your right arm.
Hmm. I agree. All right, folks. I will. Um, I think there was some information about that inside of the group last week as well. I'll look that up, and if so, I'll put information where if anybody, in case anyone had missed it, that would like to contact or reach out to Barry. I'm sure he'd appreciate hearing from you. So, all right, fellas. Well, I
Very good.
appreciate each and every one of you. Stay safe. I know we got some extreme weather going through the country right now, and through the Midwest, and just went up the East Coast. So stay safe, guys.
You
Right.
too.
Catch y'all later, man.
All right.
Keep your
Bye-bye.
fingers out of moving parts.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.